Oh, $100 million leads. Mastering Google Ads. Day unknown. I don't know what day it is, but what did we read yesterday? Okay, we finished up the other day. We finished up the 3 phases of scaling paid ads. So we got into the next question yesterday, which the next question was, how do you know if the ads are working well? You know, what are the metrics you use to benchmark your level or proficiency or efficiency in advertising? Okay, the basic answer to that is your paid ads are producing more profit than they cost you. Okay, simple enough, but how do we actually look at that? How do we actually know if that's the case? Okay. So profit, we're going to be looking at not net, we're going to look at gross profit, not revenue either, not lifetime value. We're going to look at lifetime gross profit, right? LT, lifetime GP, gross profit, LTGP, lifetime gross profit, and we're going to compare it to customer acquisition cost, CAC or CAC. So we're looking for an LTGP greater than CAC. Simple enough. So gross profit is the revenue minus the COGS, I believe, cost of goods or services, something along those lines. Essentially, revenue minus cost to deliver your product or service. Okay? That's gross profit. And then to get lifetime gross profit, we're going to take the gross profit over the lifetime of the customer. So if a customer on average over the lifetime purchased 5 times from you, and it's $500 of revenue generated per purchase, but 50% profit margin, so $250 gross profit per transaction, and the average 5 transactions over a lifetime, we're looking at $1,250 lifetime gross profit. And then we're going to compare it to CAC, customer acquisition cost, which we get from how much does it cost to get you a new customer. So we're going to look at advertising costs. We're going to look at how much are you spending. Then we're going to look at conversion from lead to show up or booking. But really, these are just transitional steps. We just look at for all the dollars you spend, how many customers are you acquiring? Okay, that's going to give you CAC. Okay, good. Gross profit is the lifeblood of the business. It's what you're paying your employees. It's what you're paying your rent, your insurance, your legal fees, your taxes. Everything comes from gross profit. So it's the fuel of a business. Lifetime gross profit we've addressed. Customer acquisition cost we've addressed. So we're looking for a greater LTGP than CAC. And that's just the basic answer, but we want to take it one step further. And Hormozy said basically every company he's seen that's had a problem with scaling or growing has had a LTGP to CAC ratio of less than 3, meaning that LTGP is less than 3 times the customer acquisition costs. Once the businesses he saw that were having scaling problems got a LTGP to CAC ratio of greater than 3, it starts growing. Boom. And that's not a law or anything. He just said that's what he's observed. So we're looking for a 3-to-1 LTGP to CAC or greater. Anything I'm missing? Yes, I did miss quite a bit. So before I even do anything else, we're going to look at, so how do we improve? If now we know what the benchmarks are and what we're looking at, the key performance indicators, how do we improve the LTGP to CAC? Well, there's 2 levers. You can increase LTGP or you can decrease CAC. These are the 2 levers to pull. Hormozy's like, well, I recommend pulling both of them. Okay, you want to decrease CAC, you want to increase LTGP. How do you decrease CAC? More efficient ads. That's been covered in previous videos. We've already read about how to make more efficient ads. Testing more callouts, better structured ad with value equations to get them to take action, and a clear call to action. Cool. More demographics, more nonverbal cues, more verbal cues. Lots of things you can do to make more efficient ads, to drop CAC, to increase LTGP. What do we do? Well, this is a whole business model thing. We want to make a better business model, and he hasn't addressed a lot of more specifics on that, but basically he's going to be charging more, getting them to purchase more. Yeah, getting them to buy more times, or increasing the price, or decreasing the costs to deliver the products. Pretty simple. I'm pretty sure he mentioned that in $100 million offers. Anyway. Then he kind of gets into the story or these extreme examples of like why the LTGP may be important. At least that's what I've inferred the point of this was. He basically was like, well, if you make $1 billion gross profit per client, well, then you can afford to spend $999 million to acquire a new client, and you'll still make $1 million of gross profit, right? That's an LTGP to CAC of like 1.001 or 1.01. No, 1.001? Doesn't matter. Basically 1-to-1. But since it's so profitable, you can spend so much money and still make a good amount of profit. Versus if your LTGP to CAC is, or if your LTGP per client is 1 cent, you're going to have to acquire clients for less than a cent. Not going to work for paid ads. So impossible. So LTGP may be more important to increase. And there's also like no barrier. You can increase your LTGP CAC or LTGP infinitely. Theoretically, you can only go to 0 for, well, that's not really a good reason, because a 0 would be like undefined. So you can't get it down to 0. But anyway, I think he's kind of trying to draw the point through those two extreme examples of the billion versus the 1 cent that LTGP may be more important than CAC. One more thing I'm forgetting. The CAC is surprisingly similar within an industry. You'd be surprised how similar customer acquisition cost is between competitors. So the difference between businesses that succeed and the businesses that fail, and the winners in a competitive market, is not the CAC. It's how much profit they make per customer over the lifetime. That's what separates a good from a bad business, really. Customer acquisition cost is actually pretty similar across the board. And I don't know what that means, how similar. I'm sure, compared to our competitors, we're getting CACs of like 50%. We could probably draw that down even further. So I'm sure, it's potentially you can get down to like 10% of a competitor, which that doesn't seem that close to me. But anyway. Let's see if I'm forgetting anything now. Yep. We're good. All right. Now that we've answered that question of how to track if we're doing well or not with paid ads, now we're going to look into the next question. If my ads aren't profitable, how do I make them profitable? What do I change? So I'll be back after I've gotten some good progress through this section. All right, so next up, we just started reading this section on if your ads aren't profitable, what do you do? Okay, so he starts out this question with, well, most businesses have a LTGP greater than CAC. Congrats. If you don't, you're probably a new startup, or you're a business that's dying, or that is already dead. So it's kind of essential for a business to have that. Pretty much. But yeah, so most businesses have an LTGP greater than CAC. However, most businesses do not have that's lifetime, right? Lifetime gross profit. So most businesses do not have a gross profit within the first 30 days greater than CAC. I'm going to double check that's what I wrote down. Yep. No. So it wasn't about the first 30 days yet. So, okay, most businesses have an LTGP greater than CAC. However, most businesses do not have gross profit from the first purchase greater than CAC. Okay? So if your CAC is greater than the gross profit of the first purchase, well, then you're going to have a cash flow problem that's going to most often inhibit your ability to scale the business. Okay? So then he gets into the idea of his idea that he calls client financed acquisition. And this is the idea that of client financed acquisition is the idea that basic client finance acquisition is the situation in which the cash you collect in the first 30 days of a new client is greater than the CAC plus the cost of goods and services, the delivery. So if you can collect more cash from a new client in the first 30 days, then CAC plus the cost of delivery, meaning gross profit from month one is greater than CAC. If that's the case, well, then you're getting paid essentially to acquire clients. And you don't have a cash flow a problem. Money's solved. Right now you have scaling problems. And why does he say 30 days? Well, because any business can get interest-free money for 30 days via a credit card. And so you get interest-free money, you scale ads, your cash collected in the first 30 days is greater than the cost of delivery plus the CAC. So then you pay your credit card off, right? No debt, zero debt. Yet since you had greater revenue than the cost and the CAC, you'll have profit left over. You'll have some money left over, but you've acquired a new client, which now you can collect pure profit without, you just get to collect from the repeat purchases. You just get to collect over the rest of their lifetime. So acquiring a client, to get paid to acquire a client that will then keep producing more and more revenue and gross profit for you, it's an amazing system, and you basically solve the money problem, and now it's a scaling problems you'll be dealing with. So pretty cool, pretty simple, but should not be undervalued or underestimated how powerful that is. You can literally solve the money problem of scaling. If you can collect more money in the first 30 days from a new client than the cost of delivery plus the CAC. So that's it. Got a few more minutes, so I'll read this next section and then I will be back to wrap up today. Talk to you guys in a second. This gives an example of saying it's a $15 revenue purchase. The average person stays, or $15 revenue. It's $5 cost of delivery. So you're generating $10 gross profit per month. The average customer stays for 10 months. Okay. So your lifetime gross profit is then $10 gross profit per month times 10 months, $100 lifetime gross profit. And say it costs you only $30 to acquire, your CAC is $30. So then you have a LTGP to CAC of 3.3. Really good, right? Over 3 LTGP to CAC. Awesome. Great. Very cool. However, there's a problem. You're going to be cash flow negative for the first 2 months. And on month actually, yeah, the beginning of month 3 you'll break even, and from that point onward you'll be cash flow positive. But before that, you'll be cash flow negative for the first 2 months, and that's a problem because it causes a cash flow problem. So that's the old way of doing it. He still mentions that you should do this anyway. You should always take this bet, or this, if that was a deal. 3.3 LTV to CAC is great, but the new way of doing it is to try to do client financed acquisition, in which you break even or are cash flow positive from day one, cash collected. And so we're going to get into that tomorrow. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I saw a little bit about upsells and getting that cash collected boosted from day one to eliminate the cash flow problem. But that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys later.